We had a lot of anxiety going into the game, like a lot of people, first time in the stadium and not knowing what you were going to get, not only from individuals, but us as a collective in terms of how we communicate, how we distribute the labor, logistically, how we function. I think we have some room for improvement there, and I'm excited about getting back out on the field this week and working to improve those areas.
Everybody, welcome inside Heinz Field. I am Missi Matthews. Welcome to the matchup show presented by POWERHOME Solar. We have a great panel on tap for you today to break down the Steelers home opener Sunday. Broncos coming to town, 1 p.m. kick. Joining me today is Bob Labriola, who I virtually only see these days, have not seen in person in quite some time. Miss you, Labs. Thanks for joining us here today. We also have Tunch Ilkin, former offensive lineman, member of the Steelers Radio Network, and also former Steelers quarterback Charlie Batch. You can also hear him on the DVE post-game show following all of our Steelers games and on KDK. So, guys, this is interesting. You know, we saw the Steelers get through week 1 Monday night, a primetime game, MetLife Stadium. There were no fans, but I am sitting here at Heinz Field where there will also be no fans. So, Charlie, I'll start with you, and just what kind of atmosphere do you anticipate on Sunday? They practiced here during training camp, but it's still a game day, and it's not going to be like a game day they're used to.
Yeah, it's going to be a little different for the defense side of the ball because they're always used to feeding off a Heinz Field crowd. But when you flip to the offensive side of the ball, for me and Ben Roethlisberger, we were in the same conference, the Mid-American Conference, Eastern Michigan, Miami of Ohio, and we're used to not playing in front of 15,000 people or less. So these are things that he's back to normal. So I fully expect Ben Roethlisberger to go out there and really we always talk about silence the crowd. With no crowd, he's going to go out here and give his teammates an opportunity to cheer from the sidelines.
All right, Tunch, to the Steelers.
Played against Eastern Michigan and Indiana State, and we went up there and it was sparse. So, one of the things that Ben said when he got hurt last year, he said he couldn't to run out the tunnel this year, and there's going to be no crowd noise. And one of the things that crowd noise is for is the offensive line because you can hear.
Now, Labs, the Steelers always talk about September being important, getting off to a fast start. They are 15-4 in home openers since Heinz Field opened. 2-0 sounds pretty good, right?
Yeah, it absolutely does. But the one thing, Missy, just sticking with, the no fans theme for a little bit more. Steelers are going to have to bring their own energy out onto the field. They're not going to have the impetus provided by 60,000 people, and in parts of the game as well, the Steelers could sometimes count on the fans maybe giving them a bit of a lift. There will be no fans. I mean, I'm sure that Renegade will be played, but I've always believed that the impact of Renegade is not that the Steelers players love the song. I'll bet you most of them never even heard of the Brock Band 6. We're too young. But the reaction that the players get from Renegade is from the fans, getting all used up when the song comes on. So all of that is going to be missing. So the players are going to be really more on their own when it comes to bringing the energy to be able to count on getting some of the fans.
All right, it is only week 2, but there are a lot of injuries for the Steelers and for the Broncos to still monitor before we get to Sunday. Today is only Thursday, but still no Von Miller for the Broncos. Philip Lindsay is dealing with turf toe. Vic Fangio said they're not sure if he can go yet, but A.J. Bouye has been ruled out, so we're probably going to see a lot of Melvin Gordon again. Now, in terms of the Steelers, guys, that O-line, Zach Banner is on IR. They brought in Gerald Hawkins, picked him off a practice squad. He's now on the 53. We don't know the status of Dave DeCastro yet. Stefan Wisniewski, James Conner, will he be good enough to go? So which injury, Tunch, do you think is the one that we should watch the most for the Steelers as we head into the latter part of this week?
David DeCastro, Missy. They haven't said what's wrong with David DeCastro's knee. And one of the things that I'm waiting for, I don't know if he practiced today, wasn't there, but David DeCastro is the best in space. He's the best puller on the Steelers team. But Matt Filer did a good job of pulling last week. But David DeCastro is tough. He's a brawler, and one of the things that I'm going to miss if he doesn't play is him.
Charlie, what about you? Which injury are you watching from either team?
I'm watching. I was sticking with that offensive line. I'm watching Wisniewski because here he was at for death. He was supposed to compete with Matt Fowler there. David DeCastro goes out. Now he's all of a sudden thrust into the starting lineup. If he's not there, we don't have a veteran presence as a backup anymore. Yes, we have Dotson, but what happens now with the makeshift line that we're all looking to do? So I think we're all anxious to see what this practice report looks like today, just to see if it gives us an indication of what happens on Sunday.
All right, Labs.
Kevin Dotson is a squat monster, and he is very, very physical. And last week he used his hands really well. He was punching every pass rep, and he was driving off the ball and throwing guys down. So I'm a fan of Kevin Dotson.
Labs.
Well, just in keeping with the living in my fears theme, of my and these kinds of roundtables, I'm going to stick with what Tunch and Charlie Batch were talking about, the right guard spot. And I don't have any confidence that either Steph Wisniewski or David DeCastro will play on Sunday. I don't know anything. That's just, how I logically approach things. And so for me, the Kevin Dotson insertion there is more about mental than physical for him. I do believe, as talking about, he can handle himself physically. The thing that concerns me is will he know what the Broncos are trying to do to him to confuse him or to create an opening, over that right guard spot that is awfully close to Roethlisberger. And so that's what concerns me. Is he going to have mental error? Is he going to have a mental bust that frees up a lane that exposes the quarterback?
All right, flipping to the Broncos offensive line and their offense, Mike Munchak, the Steelers' former offensive line coach, is over there. And earlier this week, Cam Hayward said he may know just a little too much about the Steelers team.
Munch is the ultimate spy right now. He's broke down our defense more than any other offensive coordinator or O-line coach has. And, he's going to put his offense in a good position. Whether it's combo blocking, trying to get the pressure off. So he does a lot of play actions and boots to combat that.
All right, Charlie, I will start with you. Who will benefit? Will Mike Munchak have an effect on this game, or does the Steelers defense have the upper hand?
Well, the Steelers defense will have the upper hand. Yes, Mike Munchak, he'll know the ins of each player as he's prepared for him, but that's what great offensive line coaches do. They go out there, prepare a game plan, but ultimately it's up to the one-on-one battles. I just think the defensive line of the Steelers are just too tough this go around to allow any big gaps and any huge advantages in the run game for the Broncos.
Tunch, what do you think?
So, Missy, I don't think Mike is going to spend the majority of his time telling Vic Fangio or the defensive coordinator what they're going to do. He's going to be focused on the Steelers' defense, and he's going to get guys ready to play. Those guys, when Mike Munchak was the offensive line coach for the Steelers, those guys loved him. Pounce loved him. David DeCastro loved him. Alejandro loved him. Ramon loved him. And so one of the things that he is a Hall of Famer, and he's a great technique guy, and he's a great scheme guy. And, he's going to get those guys ready to play and not focus on what the Steelers do offensively.
Labs, what's your take on this one?
Well, I think that Mike Munchak certainly can help his guys and get them ready to play. But unless he's going to, dip into the fountain of youth and go back 20 years and put on a uniform, he's not going to be able to help whoever he's talking about Cam Hayward to help block Cam Hayward. So, it's still going to come down to one-on-one matchups. You can coach up your guys. You can tell your guys this is what he likes to do. But if you can't stop it, you can't stop it. And so I'm looking at the situation. There's a couple of matchups, I think, that regardless of what Mike Munchak may be telling his player.
Hold on, Lab, Munchak is calling you now.
Regardless of what he might be telling his players, I just don't know if the Broncos' offensive line is good enough to really have an impact in that way.
All right. Guys, we are going to take a quick break. I want to talk much more about the Steelers' defense, what they can do to Drew Lock on Sunday, and also hear which matchup you're looking most forward to. So don't go anywhere. The Matchup Show continues. Everybody, welcome back inside Heinz Field and welcome back to the Matchup Show presented by POWERHOME Solar. I am Missy Matthews. We are still talking about the Steelers defense here. Charlie, I'll start with you. We saw what they were able to do on Monday night against Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley. They played fast, they played physical, they got lots of pressure. Can that same game plan be implemented this Sunday?
It definitely can, and I think this is something that really heading into that Giants game, they wanted to make Daniel Jones one-dimensional. You're going to take Barkley out and force him to beat him with his arm. He wasn't able to do that. He had some things that were going right for him, but when you turn the football over twice in critical situations like that, that's obviously going to favor the Steelers defense. But I think when you look back on what's happening right now, Drew Luck, he's going to take that similar approach, watching what happened on film, and you better believe that the Steelers are going to take out Melvin Gordon because of his big playability and now force a young Drew Lock to go out there and literally beat you with his arm. Can it happen? I think that's something that we're all going to try to figure out. I just don't think it's going to happen.
Tunch, what do you think about this one?
One thing that I focus on is Tyson Alu kicked the butt of Nick Gates last week. And Lloyd Cushenberry is a rookie from Louisiana State. And one of the things that I love about Tyson is he gets his hands up really fast, and then he collapses the center and he drives them back into the backfield. And that's what he did with Nick Gates. And I think that he's going to do that with Lloyd Cushenberry. And the nose tackle, when he controls the center, when he controls the double team, the right guard or the left guard and the center, the run game is non-existent.
Labs, what's your take on this one?
Well, I certainly think that the Steelers' base plan defensively is going to involve stopping the run and then getting after the quarterback. I mean, that's who the Steelers are. They've been either the leader or tied for the lead in sacks for the past few NFL seasons now. But I'm also looking at Ben Roethlisberger and the offense, because if the offense does what it needs to do early, that element of it also can force the opponent away from its running game, because then you're looking at the clock and the scoreboard, and you can't catch up simply by trying to control the game running the ball. It's not 2019 where the Steelers offense is one that has to struggle to score 14 points. And so the defense will do its thing. If the offense holds up its end, maybe by the middle of the third quarter, the running of Melvin Gordon is going to be neutralized just by the scoreboard.
All right, guys, this is the Matchup Show, so I want to know, which matchup are you looking most forward to seeing on Sunday? Charlie, what do you say to this one?
I'm looking forward to seeing the young Drew Lock against our veteran secondary. They've had a lot of success. They showed a lot of exotic coverages on third down. Can they continue to confuse the younger quarterbacks? And can the Steelers build on what they did last week in that secondary? It's going to be interesting to see, but I think right now they're off to a good start.
Tunch, what's your matchup to watch?
Well, my matchup is Jarrell Casey against Matt Filer and Bradley Chubb against Alejandro. One of the things, those two are their best pass rushers, and the fact that Von Miller is not playing, you can slide left every time. And, we're going to slide left, and I think that you'll get the chip from the running back on Bradley Chubb. But Bradley Chubb, he looks a little dinged up. He looked a a little dinged up against last week against the team that they played, and I just think that he's not 100%.
Labs, what's your matchup for Sunday?
Well, kind of piggybacking on what Charlie said, going after Drew Lock, the young quarterback, a lot of times when a young quarterback is under duress or expects to be under duress, he will try and find someone to kind of be his security blanket. And so far this season, anyway, to me, it seems like Drew Lock's security blanket is tight end Noah Fant. He led the team last week with 5 catches for 81 yards and a touchdown. And so I'm going to be interested to see what the Steelers have in their plan to deal with him. I'm sure it's going to include some combination of Devin Bush and Terrell Edmonds. But controlling that guy, I believe, will really help the Steelers' plan in terms of making Drew Lock do some things that he really doesn't want to do.
All right, guys, we are going to take one more short break. When we return, I want to get your key to the game. Don't go anywhere. The matchup show continues. Everybody, welcome back to the matchup show. We are getting ready for the Steelers home opener Sunday here at Heinz Field against the Denver Broncos. The Steelers 1-0, the Broncos 0-1. It is time now for our keys to the game presented by your neighborhood Ford store. All right, guys, we are getting closer and closer to game day. Charlie, what is your key to the home opener?
My key to this game is Ben Roethlisberger getting this offense off to a faster start. To me, watching that Giants game, it just took him a quarter to really get into his rhythm. And ultimately, once they got in that 2-minute drill, that's when he was at his best. I expect Ben Roethlisberger now, as he knocked off the rust a little bit without playing with no preseason games, I fully expect him to come out here, put the team in the end zone, open and touchdown drive, and then from there, as they're sitting on top early, then they can get within their game plan, everything they wanted to do this week.
Tunch, what is your key to Sunday?
Well, Charlie was right. Ben's going to have a big game. But one of the things that I like to do as an offensive lineman was run the ball. Mike Purcell and Shelby Harris, they're the weak guys of the defensive line. And so on the right side, we're going to have to run the ball. One thing, in the first half, they didn't run the ball well, but in the second half they started running the ball. And Benny Snell, he's got great vision, he's got great speed, he's got great balance, and he's got great power. The fact that I heard that he lost 12 pounds, I didn't think he was going to run with power, but he's running with power, and he's got a great jump cut, and he's bounces it outside. Benny Snell against these guys, I think is going to have a big game.
All right, Labs, are we saving the best for last? What is your key to Sunday?
Don't help Denver. Both of these teams played Monday night, and all due respect to the Denver Broncos, I don't believe that they're a good enough team to fly halfway across the country on a short week and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field unless they get help. And by help, I mean turnovers, bad penalties in situations. Don't commit penalties on third downs that extend the opposing offense's drives. Don't kick off out of bounds. Don't clang extra points off the upright. Those kinds of things. If the Steelers, Mike Tomlin always talks about being a tough team to beat. Well, a lot of what goes into that is not beating yourself. To use a tennis analogy, don't hit the ball into the net. And if the Steelers don't do any of those things, I think they come out of Heinz Field with a win. And Missy, as you said, 2-0 sounds pretty good.
All right, guys, thanks so much for joining me here today on the Matchup Show. Really appreciate it. Again, Steelers home opener Sunday at 1 o'clock. Visiting Broncos will be in town. Thanks, guys. Have a great night. We'll see everybody here next week.